Welcome back to our work with the Shape Builder tool and our process of taking this illustration to the next level. The first thing we're going to do is take advantage of some results that have already come about because of our Shape Builder tool use. And we're going to take a look with our direct selection tool, right? So the white arrow, or you can use the keyboard shortcut A. To choose that, and we're going to Control plus to zoom in a little bit. And we've got these corner options in kind of interesting places because this is all one big shape now. And so I'm just going to choose one of those at a time. And I really, especially this one in the front, I'm going to pull, maybe not quite all the way in, but I'm going to pull that one in a little bit just to round that off, because that sharp corner right there in the front really wasn't what I had in mind for this. Maybe out a little bit further. Wasn't what I had in mind for this chicken. So also up here, I don't really need that sharp corner there, so I'm going to kind of pull this up a little bit and round that off. And over here near the tail, I'm going to go ahead and round that part a little bit also. What you might notice, actually, when we did that, is that we have kind of opened up this gap. The orange tail and the body of the chicken were two separate shapes that just fit each other perfectly when we use the Shape Builder tool. And now we've created a little bit of gap. So I'm going to drag a selection for the tail and the body together again and go back to my Shape Builder tool and kind of be careful to make sure I have the right color picked. And then I'm just going to kind of cross into there to include that part of the shape. Maybe zoom in a little bit to see how things look around the edge. And they're pretty good down there. All right, so the next thing that I'm looking at is over here at the neck. Those are a couple of places where I'd like to add a little bit of rounding also, but I have a problem right there. So if I go A to get back to my direct selection tool and I pick this spot right here, I don't get any option to round out that corner. And that's because there are actually two anchors. Sometimes the Shape Builder tool doesn't build things in the most ideal ways, and there are kind of two anchors right here, one of them for the straight edge and another one for this curving bit. But what I can do with this spot selected is I can delete one of those anchors, and you can see that it kind of does some funny rounding here. If you want to play around with trying to figure out how to use handles to kind of recreate a similar curve, you can do that. But what I want to do is focus, just click here so it doesn't do other ones at the same time. Click here and drag that a little bit. Right? So, and then I'm going to go do the same thing over here on this side. This one also has kind of double anchors going. I'm going to delete one of them, and then you can see my little pieces showing up right here. And click that and round out that part of the neck a little bit. Right, so let's zoom out, take stock of what we've got going so far. There's a lot of other corners that I'm happy to just leave with the sharp edges. That's working out just fine for me. You might play around with your stars. You can remember, if you don't select just one, you can do some rounding on all of the parts of the star at once, both the outside points and these inside corners at the same time. I'm going to hit Control Z because I'm going to leave my stars nice and pointy for now. But let's now see some other things that we might want to do with the Shape Builder tool. I am going to make an adjustment to the eye of this chicken. So I'm going to first draw out an ellipse. Remember, holding down Shift is going to keep that a circle. I'm going to draw a circle that's about the right size for the eye that I want to make. And choose a fill of black. And then maybe need to zoom in a little bit to make this easier. V for my selection tool. I'm going to Alt and drag off another circle, and then I'm going to Shift, shrink this one down a little bit, and change it to white. Pull it over my other circle, kind of in a position like this, and select them both so that I can go to my shape builder tool. And actually, this time, I don't want to add shapes together. What I'd like to do is get rid of this little part of the circle over here on this side. So if you hold down the Alt key, which would be the Option key on a Mac, if you hold down the Alt key, you'll notice that your cursor switches from having a plus to having a little minus. And now, if I hover over this and then click it, instead of putting things together, it takes things away. So that's an important keyboard shortcut. For the Shape Builder tool, normally the Shape Builder tool combines things together with that little plus, and if you hold down Alt, then it subtracts pieces off. All right, back on my selection tool, I want this eye to just always be together as one piece. I don't want to be able to pull it apart like that. So I'm going to Control Z a couple of times to get those put back together, and then I'm going to hit Group. And so now, when I come and just try to pick one part of this eye, it always grabs the whole thing. And I'm going to delete this old eye and pull my new one down in there instead. All right, so that's one nice thing, kind of a nice touch that we can add quickly with the Shape Builder tool. The next thing that we're going to look at is some possibilities for shading. So we'll start with the body. I'm going to select it and then Alt and click, and I'm just going to kind of move it a little bit up and to the left, leaving kind of just a small gap around one side. Once I've got it offset, I could use my arrows maybe to move around exactly where I want it to be. Then I'm going to hold down Shift and just pick the other version of the body. So the only things that are selected here are the two parts of the body that I just made. And I'm going to go to the Shape Builder tool with only those things selected. And I'm going to come to my fill here. So far, we've just been picking swatches off of the preloaded swatches here, but we also can pick any color in the rainbow pretty much. And we do that by switching from the swatches to the color mixer. But a really nice trick on the color mixer is using this menu right here to switch to HSB. Because that just lets me, with this slider, just control how much black is involved in the color. So I can just kind of pull this a little bit to the right, and it doesn't change the hue or the saturation. It just changes the blackness of the color. And so that's a great way to kind of add a shadow to things. So I'm going to click there, right? I was still on my Shape Builder tool. and I just came and clicked right in this edge where I want the shadow. Then I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool. I'm going to grab this extra body that I made and just pull it off and delete it. Okay. And so we're going to repeat that process a few times so that you can start to get the hang of it. So we'll go, maybe we'll just try the wing next. So we're going to select it. We're going to Alt and kind of drag a little bit up and to the right. Shift to select the other piece. Go to our Shape Builder tool. Go to our coloring and just darken that down a little bit, maybe not too much. And just drop that color right here where we want the shadow. V to get back to our selection tool, pull off just our extra piece we made and delete. Right? So at first it pulled off both because everything was selected, right? So same thing again on the tail here. Select it, Alt to kind of pull it up. Yeah, so that's not going quite where I want it to go. We're going to have to try something a little bit different here. So I'm going to put that down there, and then come to my direct selection tool. I'm going to pick, holding down Shift to get those two anchors, and then I'm going to pull them up. Oh, missed one I needed. Let's do Control Z. I need to get 1, 2, 3 anchors with the Shift key down, and then I'm just going to kind of pull up like that. I really just want to get some shadow onto this part of the shape, maybe even pulling over that way a little bit more. Good enough. Then Shift to select both of those. Go to my shape builder. Oh, this would have been a place that would have been convenient for me to have been a little bit more careful with making a way to remember what this shade was. But it looks like right now it's going to let me pick that shade. I don't know whether that did anything. Good enough. I'm going to come in here, make that darker. Back to my selection tool, pull this extra piece off and delete. Things are not perfect along this edge, but perfection is not necessarily what we're going for in this illustration. I'm going to add some more shadows in various places for a little bit, and I'll catch up with you when I'm done. Okay, a lot of time messing around on shading there, even more than I showed you in those clips. The last thing that I want to look at is doing something about this grass down here. Let's see if we can drag out a selection for those and then shift and drag out a selection for these so that we're treating them both in the same way. And then one thing that I want to do is come in here to our swatches and adjust the color, starting from the color of the ground and then coming over here to our HSB tools and dragging our black slider down just to make a dark version of the ground color for the stroke of this grass. So I like that. And then I want to come in here. Maybe first let's zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see what's going on with the blue overlays, but let's come in here to the stroke, and we're going to pick a profile for this grass. And we have various options, but I think that this one down here is the one I'm going to like, and it's easier to see what's going on if you up the weight of your stroke a little bit. And that looks okay, but I think this button right here is going to let me switch the direction. And I think I like my grass a little bit more go in that direction. So yeah, not too thick, maybe like that. All right, so there are quite a few new things that we learned here in this video. I'd like you to try to replicate some of those. Yeah, and you can go now, and I'm going to mess around fixing this grass.